Welcome to Ignite Intimacy, a podcast exploring intimacy, romantic relationships, sexuality, and everything that relates to these hot topics. We're going in. Are you ready? This is your host, Laura Aisha. Let's do this. Hello, Ignite Intimacy community. It is your host, Miss Laura Aisha, and I am super excited to share this next episode with you. This was actually recorded quite some time ago when I was in Los Angeles before the holidays, and I recorded this with Corinne Loperfido. She is based in New Orleans right now and someone I had met in LA. She is incredibly creative and amazing. This woman is a powerhouse. So check it out, tune in, listen up. And we've got another gorgeous poem from Noelle coming at the end of this episode. So stay tuned. We love you, and we'll see you on the other side. Ciao. What is happening, Ignite Intimacy community? This is your host, Miss Laura Aisha, and I am standing in the sun here in sunny Los Angeles after a day of driving rain. And I am really, really happy and excited to be with Corinne on the line. And it's funny. So Corinne, welcome to Ignite Intimacy.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, and it's cool because I met you in Los Angeles 2 years ago. And now I'm here and you're in New Orleans creating a life. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's great. So I met Corinne through a mutual friend of ours, someone I've had on the podcast a couple of times, Morgan Love. And Morgan invited me to this trunk show at a building downtown in Los Angeles 2 years ago. And I showed up and happened upon Corinne's apartment, and it was just filled with really feast for the eyes everywhere you looked, just like art and jewelry and beautifully colored clothing and fabrics. And it was like, who is this woman? I need to know this woman. So, so it's so awesome to have you here today. And just for our listeners, we're going to be diving into a conversation that is going to take us on a journey through romantic relationships, pussy power, the feminine and masculine, sex and sexual sovereignty, and just creation in the world, creating your life, creating your path, and any other number of things that come in through this conversation. So couldn't think of anyone else I'd rather have this conversation with at the moment. Corinne, welcome to Ignite Intimacy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So when you first met me, what made you think oh, I have to have her on the podcast?
Well, it was your line of pussy-centric jewelry that really caught my eye. It was Missy Elliott, 80s hip hop, mid 2015, 16 pussy power mashup. And I was like, okay, I want to know what is inspiring this woman to put out these pieces that to me spoke very powerfully. It was claiming of something.
Yeah, it definitely was a statement. I mean, I've lived in New Orleans before, and I was really kind of got my start as a costume designer and jewelry designer through living here and needing to make costumes all the time for parades and stuff. And then when I moved to downtown Los Angeles, I came in contact with a laser cutter. And I was like, wow, actually, this would be really fun to take phrases because I have, like I said, a degree in graphic design. So I know how to use the program to have things designed to be cut on a laser. And it was at the same time that Trump was coming into office, and it was just a really fucked up time for women. Not that it hasn't been for a long, long time, but it was a particularly volatile time. And I feel like women really needed something that was just a reclamation and a statement of our autonomy and taking charge of our bodies. And so I started making these necklaces that said pussy power, pussy magic, I made like a bunch of different crazy ones for friends, like custom orders, one that said pubes on fleek. And my friend, like, she does waxing professionally, and she was like, I want to wear one that says pubes on fleek when I'm waxing women's pussies. And so just, I had all kinds of crazy things, cunty, bruja, like, I don't even know, so many different phrases. And it was really fun to see people react to them. And then a couple years into that, I was like feeling really bad. I went to my friend's class about environmental activism at this women's gathering called Spirit Weavers in Southern Oregon that happens in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to this class, and at the end, she was like, okay, everyone say one thing you're going to do to, be better to the environment. And in that, I was like, oh my God, I have to stop making these necklaces. They're made out of plastic. Like, I can't do this anymore. And so that was kind of like the beginning of my journey, which we can get into later, about living a zero waste lifestyle and getting right in my relationship to the earth, and, how to exist within capitalism and still honor the earth as, something valuable, and kind of change the culture back to a way where we appreciate the gifts of the earth and of our bodies and of all things natural, as opposed to this kind of overstimulated, on demand, have whatever you want, fuck the planet kind of way that we live now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like honor the mother, right? It's like honor the mother earth, honor the mother within all of us. It's like, to me, what I hear is honor the mother.
Yeah, respect like where we've come from and what we're made out of. And the simple, I feel like we've lost track of the basics in pursuit of this kind of false idea of financial security and success and popularity. It's kind of like none of that matters in the end. And in the end, we're all going to die and rot and return to the earth and, become mulch, and then it'll all start all over again through the mother. And so, yeah, it's like honoring women as the creators of human life, and honoring our larger Mother Earth, for creating this environment for us to even exist to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even like it's like honoring the mother in all of us, no matter what gender you are, or, it's like we all are mother, actually. We all have a mother in us.
The ability to nurture and take care and, give birth to ideas, and totally.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because you shared a little bit with me about your journey over the last, 10 years. And I'd like for you to share with our audience, just to give some background, your history, what your journey has been as a sexual being, as a woman on planet Earth, in this time, and like what brought you into the world of the Pussy Powerhouse events that you were creating, and like all of that. Like, bring us back to like, your journey as a woman and a sexual being and a creative being here in these times.
Wow. All right. Yeah, that's a lot. So where to begin? Well, like, to go back into the party thing, I think the history of like me as an event producer and how that led to this moment creating Pussy Powerhouse is relevant. So I went to school for graphic design, then moved to Austin, Texas, started doing dance parties there that were inspired by music from New Orleans, because I had visited there after college and really fell in love with New Orleans. And then I was like, wow, I hadn't moved there yet, but I wanted to participate in that, in what I saw here, which was sexual freedom, celebration, dance and music, like cross-cultural, bringing people together. And I wanted to spread that message into the people that I hung out with. And so I started doing these parties. And then I created a party when I moved to New Orleans a few months later. I started a party called Big Dick's House of Big Boobs, which was a queer performance art strip club where anybody can dance. Yeah, it was really fun. It still happens every once in a while. There's some people in New Orleans that do it. I occasionally do it in Portland or LA. Just like, it's like really depends on finding a venue, which is becoming increasingly hard. But anyway, so the point of that party was like, anybody can dance, total freedom, nudity is allowed, just like self-expression in its most raw form and allowing people, regardless of gender or size or skill level, to do some kind of like performance art striptease. And it could be as simple as just like taking your clothes off, and as elaborate as having, costume changes and props and a group dance. Like, it was really run the gamut
That's awesome.
of expression. And so that was a really powerful event that I did for about 6 years. And then I started doing other parties. One of them was called Pretty Witches. That's a ladies only, no alcohol dance party. And I created that, I think, in like 2015. That was something that I was like, I was in a relationship, a committed relationship at the time. And I was like, I've never been a drinker, and I didn't like going out dancing in the bars necessarily, just because of the way that I dance. So Pretty Witches is a party that I created to give women a space to come and dance without alcohol, and to be able to just like be free, be topless, be naked, whatever it is that you wanted to do. And that was for self-identifying women. And that event was, inclusive to anyone that was identified as a woman or was non-binary and just wanted to come dance in a non-sexual, not that people weren't making out. I shouldn't say non-sexual, but it was like, it wasn't a party where usually when you think about going out dancing, it's like get drunk and find someone to go home with, or like go out with your friends. You know what I mean? And I just wanted it to be a space where people could not have to worry about the male gaze, in that sense of like, oh, if I'm like going crazy, like twerking on the floor with my top off, like that's going to attract some kind of attention that I don't necessarily want. And so to provide a space in a non-bar venue for women to be free, that was really fun. And so I did that party a few times in different cities, and eventually went to this festival called Spirit Weavers, which is a camping trip. It's about 500 to 800 women in the woods for a weekend. Well, it's 2 weekends. And there's all these classes about women's health and plant medicine and connecting to the earth and all these things I was interested in. And I took a class from a woman named Samantha Zipporah, who I now am friends with and have been doing events with for the past 3 years. And she was doing this class about abortion. And then I took another class about the IUD and the dangers of that. And through going to this gathering within 1 weekend, I was exposed to all this information that I was like, wow, people need to know this. Like, we don't know our bodies. We're not taught all this stuff anywhere, really. I mean, you would have to like really seek it out. But then to find like a holistic, woman-centered approach that is not coming from the pharmaceutical, medical, industrial complex voice or agenda was really empowering. And so I was like, okay, I'm already doing these events that are like body positive, sex positive, creative, freedom of dance kind of thing. And then I was like, I really want to start to integrate this education into the events. And so that's when I created Pussy Powerhouse in Los Angeles and last year, so the beginning of 2017. And it started out as an art show and featured a bunch of female artists, and people could come and just hang out and be free, kind of like my other parties, but it wasn't like a big dance party. It was more like an intimate, like gathering of friends, like intellectuals, artists, feminists, stuff like that.
Nice.
And so because of that, the first one was so great. I was like, okay, let's do another one next month. And so it just kind of happened that we started doing more parties every month that had a different theme. And then eventually last year started doing a zine. So now I have 4 zines out, and I'm working on another one right now called Boobs that will be all about breast health, breastfeeding, like breast shape and size and self-care, and really like honoring and understanding our bodies. Because I spent the past couple of years kind of focusing on like menstruation, abortion, like sexuality, all these kind of like topics more to do with pussy related things. And now I'm like, well, breasts are so important to the female experience that I need to like address this as well and do a whole informational, event about it. And so I do these parties now that are no alcohol. And in California, we have cannabis, but in New Orleans, it'll just be, a no alcohol party that is a social gathering that's fun, and there'll be costumes and performances, and like it'll be a whole experience of all different kinds of ways to explore this subject. But it will also be a place where people can come together and learn something and feel like they had a social interaction in a clear state of mind in the daytime, and like creating community around a topic that that is like kind of universal topic, even if you don't have breasts, you came from a mother and you sucked her breasts to get milk. Hopefully you were breastfed. So just having that kind of respect and understanding, because men are welcome to come to the parties as well, as long as they're respectful and, because I want everyone to have access to this information. I don't think that it's like only women's problem to know this stuff. I feel like if we could kind of integrate a more sex positive, holistic way of approaching our bodies and making it fun and destigmatizing just our natural being, I think that would really help heal a lot of the issues in society that we have now.
Absolutely. Well, and it's interesting because my friend in LA was saying that he has been going to this gym, and when he goes, it's mostly, there are mainly men there. And then he noticed that maybe he was going at different times of the day, and he noticed that there were some women there too. And he was like, I kind of like going to the gym with just men, because when you add women, it creates a different environment, or there's just like a different energy that's present. And I was sharing with him how I used to go to a gym for women only years ago when I was living in Buffalo. And I really enjoyed that because I could just go to the gym and do what I was there to do and not be concerned about anybody, like trying to pick me up or my own sort of, thing around like looking good and wanting to impress anybody, or, because sometimes that can come up for me when you throw men into the mix. And so
you're sweaty, you're exercising. And it is interesting how these situations, like we're just trying to go to the gym, we're not trying to get picked up or do anything for a man specifically, but just having that kind of element, it does change things.
Exactly. And also that I love that you're creating environments where women can show up and be fully expressed without having to be concerned about being misunderstood, read wrong. Like, twerking is a beautiful expression. It's a physical expression and a way of moving that cultures have been doing for since humans existed, right? Like, twerking is something that is very natural. It's a natural movement of the body. And it can very quickly become this strictly sexual thing. And there can be this misunderstanding that if someone's twerking, they want someone to come to them to meet them or match them or move with them, or that it's sexual and it's a turn on. And there's something just really awesome and powerful about creating the space where you can move your body however you want to and know that it's safe, and you don't have to worry about someone you don't know coming up behind you and trying to get in on your twerk or being misunderstanding it.
Yeah, it's just that the way that society has been set up as of now, and it's I don't want to say I don't judge it because it is fucked up, and but I acknowledge that that's what it is as of now, and in order to change it, we have to change ourselves. Women have to be actually, no, this is how we want to be treated, because men for so long have just been taught by society, by religion, by everything, that women exist for their pleasure. And so as far as they know, if a woman is doing something sexual, it must be because they want male attention, because that's what we've all been told is normal and acceptable. So now by, the fact that women don't necessarily need to have a man to take care of them, we can have our own jobs and take care of ourselves and take care of each other. We might not want to have children. We might not want to have sex. We might be queer. There's so many different factors. It's not like everything with a pussy is out there looking for a man to take care of its every need and provide pleasure for the man. Mm-hmm. So yes, twerking and any kind of dance that is, any kind of dance at all, you're moving your body, it could be perceived as sexual. But one of my big things that I try and focus on with my events and just in the way that I live my life is that just existing, just having a female body doesn't mean that it's up for the consideration, or how do I even say this? Like, for the male consumption. Like, if I want to invite men to touch my body or even look at my body or comment on my body, like, I should be able to have a say in that instead of just being subject, to the like, hey baby, give me your number, walking down the street, or being at a dance party. And like, for me, I just want to go and dance with myself. Like, I don't necessarily, it's very rare that I want a man to touch me or get into my physical space at all when I'm on the dance floor. Because I don't dance for their pleasure. I dance because I love to move my body and I love the music and I love to dance. And so, you can't really fully let go of your awareness at most places where you're dancing in public, because men are going to be like, oh, like, she's moving her body in this way. Like, we're still living in a culture that I guess I could say, like, endorses the male behavior of trying to get a piece of it because they think that they're entitled to it. So, even like the pussy power necklace, that was kind of like protection. Like, no one fucks with you when you're wearing that necklace. It's like, people are either like respect and they like it and they see it and they honor it, or they're like, okay, this lady does not want to be, kind of just like, it lets men know, like, you can't fuck with me because I am aware of my own power and I don't need you to validate me. I don't need you to try and like put your power on top of mine. Like, I stand strong in my own power. And if I'm interested, I'll let you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's even like this, and this is not like across the board, right? This is not like all men and all women. It's, however, this has been my experience being a woman in the world. And it's even as simple as the other night. So I arrived in LA and I went to pick up my rental car, and this will commonly happen when I get into an Uber or a Lyft when I'm traveling, and there's a male driver and I'm in the car by myself. And so I'm at the airport, or I'm at the rental car spot, and I'm getting a car. And so I'm standing in the garage and this guy is checking me in. And then he's like, okay, let me grab your car for you. Brings the car. And then he's like, all right, we're just going to do a walk around to make sure that, the car looks good. And then you'll be on your way. And I said, great. So as we like move towards the car to do this just inspection of the car, he's like, so where do you live? I mean, like, what brings you to LA? Like, he starts asking me questions that I deem personal. Like, where do I live? Why do I come to LA? Like, and I just said to him, can we just do the inspection of the car? Because I need to go, like, I need to get to where I'm going. And what happened for me internally is I did this whole dance around, like, because I could tell it affected him in some way. And there was a part of me that felt bad, like, oh, should I have, appeased him and answered his questions and been nice and like just to like skirt around it and whatever. And then the other side of me was like, that was totally okay for you to say that and to set a boundary and just say, look, I want to do this inspection and get going. But it's like, for me, it might seem like a very simple thing, and it happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, women are taught to be polite, to not rock the boat, to please men in general, and to like oblige a man's request. Just like, basically, like, don't piss a man off. And also, you are not entitled to set boundaries for yourself because you are not an autonomous being with your own. It's kind of like we're taught we exist for the pleasure and enjoyment of men. And if that means that they want to talk to a pretty girl or they want to get a pretty girl's phone number, then they're going to ask those questions. And I feel like it's important for us to set boundaries and be like, I actually don't need to tell you. It's like, not only do I not want to, but I'm not obligated to give you any information about myself. Like, this is a professional interaction. You're supposed to be doing this, and it's one thing when the dentist asks you what you do for work because they're trying to distract you while they like work on your cavity, but is the connection still there?
Yeah, totally. And well, yeah, absolutely. And so it's this fine line around just being in the world and interacting with other people, and then where it starts to feel like invasive. And then I know for myself, when I start to question, like, I don't want to answer this question. Like, why are you even asking me this question? I don't know who you are. I'm literally like, you just picked me up to take me somewhere because that's the service you provide. And you happen to be the person picking me up. And like, it's really none of your business. Like, where I live, why I'm here, how long I'm here, And then also just that energy of taking it into the club or into a party. And there have been many times where I've been at a show, I've been in a club, and I'm like dancing and moving because I'm a dancer too. I love to move my body. And someone that I don't know comes up behind me and starts like dancing with me. And I'm like, whoa, dude, like not cool,
Yeah, it's like, how do we, it just blows my mind that people try and do that. It's like, did I do anything to indicate to you that I wanted you to like come over to me and grind on me or whatever? I mean, it's one thing if someone like comes up and wants to talk to you, I'm not saying like men aren't allowed to talk to us, but I think there's a lot of like presumption that if they see something they like, that it's their right to go after it, even if it's like at the discomfort of the woman. It's just like, yeah, but I want to know where you live. I want to dance with you because I think you're sexy, and so I think that all we can do in this time to change the culture is to just keep standing up for ourselves and being like, no, actually, like, I'm not going to talk to you, or I'm not going to let you dance with me. And, because there's a lot we have to change, but it's a huge shift from what we've been living in for many thousands of years. And so that's why I'm like, I just kind of try and be as patient as I can with it, because men are just trying to do the thing that they've been told to do their whole life, which is like make the move. Men are very affected and poisoned by the patriarchy just as much as us,
Yeah.
Even though they benefit from it more in certain ways. It's like they also don't, because no one deep down like wants to make someone feel uncomfortable or feel bad. Like, people want to feel loved. People want things to be good. But because they're taught, you approach the woman, you know what the woman wants. Like, let her be subservient to you because you're the one who knows. It's just like, whose fucked up idea was that? Like, how could you imagine? Like, even today I was getting a massage, and I've been seeing the same masseuse for many, many years now. And so we have a certain relationship, even though it's a man. Like, we know each other. I've been massaged by him so many times. I feel comfortable being naked. I feel comfortable, being a massage can be really vulnerable for a lot of people. And people have had lots of negative experiences. So I understand why that's the case. But by establishing boundaries and also like being vocal, like throughout the massage, I was like, oh, like, do this differently, or like, touch me in this way, or, just kind of like guiding him and being like, this is a kind of healing that I actually need. Like, I know what it feels like in my body. Like, I know where I hurt or where I'm tense or what's too much or like what would feel really good. And so just like verbalizing that. And at one point he was like, hey, thank you so much for being so vocal and saying it. It really reminds me like that this is one type of way to give massage, which is not just kind of like letting the person melt and hoping you're doing a good job, but really having like an active communication feedback loop between the two people that are engaging in an activity, and a very like intimate physical activity. Even though it's not sexual, it's still like intimate in the sense that I'm naked and he's like grabbing all over my body. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
By having boundaries and being able to talk effectively, I wasn't saying like, hey, you suck at massage, like you're doing it all wrong. Like, he's an amazing masseuse, but no one can know exactly what your boundaries are, what feels comfortable, what's too much, what's not enough, until you verbalize it to them and let the other person know, hey, this is how this actually makes me feel when you do this or act this way.
Absolutely. One, and that's where, we're all responsible. We can all be self-responsible in our communication, right? And like, so So when something doesn't work for us, and this is for anybody, no matter what gender you are, or, how you, classify yourself, it's like we all can be powerful and clear in our communication, and we can speak up when something doesn't feel right. We can speak up when it's like, actually, that's none of your business, and I'm not comfortable answering that question, or like guiding someone in a massage. I mean, I, for myself, know that in the past, there have been times where I haven't even wanted to tell a masseuse, oh, actually, that's a little too hard, or because I've been so insecure within myself. And like, I didn't want to upset them, or I didn't want to, hurt their feelings. And what I'm realizing and learning through the years, and as I spend more time in this life here on planet Earth, it's like, there's a way to communicate things to people that is not mean or condescending. It's just direct and it's clear, and where it actually feeds and fosters the connection between you and that person. And there's a lot to be gained for both people through those types of interactions. And this is from like the guy at the rental car spot to the masseuse to your lover in the bedroom, and so fostering that communication is a key piece of the equation.
Yeah, and not feeling bad, whatever your truth is. Like, you know what? Maybe you just didn't feel like talking to that guy, and that's okay. And maybe on some other moment, or if he was a different person, or if you were in a different mood, maybe you would have been like, oh yeah, I live in Mid-City and blah, blah, blah. I'm here for a business trip. But for whatever reason, for you in that situation at that moment, you didn't feel like communicating personal information to a total stranger in, a topic that's basically irrelevant. It's not like you're going to be friends with this person. You're just like trying to do the thing. And of course, there is people just wanting to be polite. And I think that can also be challenging when men are like, oh, you're just a bitch because you don't want to talk to me. But so that's one of the tricky things about this new kind of way that women exist in the world, where we're not subservient to men, is that it's like, we're not trying to be bitches, but we're perceived as such if we don't just like oblige every man's request. Or like, even the other day at a restaurant, this man was like talking to this woman at the table next to me. And I remember hearing them talk, and just vaguely, because I've been paying attention to this more and more this year, just how much space men take up in a conversation typically. And I remember just listening to this guy, not paying attention, but just like was aware that like he talked the entire time and she barely got a couple words in. And then I was like, went up to the counter, got something, sat back down, and he was like, hey, come sit with us for a minute. And I was like, oh God. I was like, sure, why not? Life is a mystery. So I sit down with him for a minute, and it was just, like he kind of like did the intro, and this woman barely said anything. And then I kind of like, he asked me questions like, who am I? What am I? Blah, blah, blah. And so, then I just started talking to her, and I was just like, started asking her questions and engaging more with her. And you could tell that he kind of just was like annoyed and not interested anymore. And I was just like, okay, I'm, hung out there for a minute. I was polite. And then I like went back to my table and did my thing. But it was kind of like, I obliged because I didn't want to be rude. But really what I wanted, like my truth in that moment was, you know what? I actually just really want to like answer my emails or read my book or like catch up on my messages with my friend, whatever it was that I was going to do at my personal lunch. And with all due respect, sir, I listen to you like just like talk the entire time, and I don't really care to like listen to you talk right now because I don't know you, and I'm just like, that's not my agenda. But, out of politeness, I sat down. But then it was like, okay, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm at least going to spin it in this way where I like engage more with the woman at the table and just, and then observe that. It's like, okay, you're going to pull me into your experiment. Well, I'm going to pull you into mine. And so just little interactions like that, like making women feel acknowledged, asking them about their interests, and just not letting the men always dominate the situation. That's like one subtle way that I feel like I use my interactions out in the world to try and like shift things around.
Yeah. Well, and it makes me think of just dating and how I've been on dates where it's like, I'm just like sitting there and the man is just like talking about himself and just, sharing so much about his life and like never asks about me.
Yeah, I literally never asks you a question for like an hour. And so I think, yeah, like, so I got out of a 5-year relationship this year and I've gone on a couple dates with people that I've known. I haven't like met anyone or just like been in a place to be like ready to like go out there in the world and like pursue like a brand new person. So I've like reconnected with some old friends and lovers this year. And it's been interesting because just certain people that you're like, okay, yeah, let's hang out. And then I'll just kind of like let them do their thing. I'm like, I'm just going to see how this goes. And then it's like, sure enough, after like an hour or multiple hours of hanging out, they just literally keep talking about their own thing, kind of like unaware if I'm even interested or not. I'm basically like a body that's there to like hear them speak. And I was just like, cool, this is what I absolutely like do not care. And it's not even about sex because it's like, yeah, those people that just listen, that just talk and talk and talk at you are probably also not the best lovers because are they going to be aware and present and listening and communicative in the bedroom about what is about your pleasure? Are you enjoying it or not? Or are they just like, daddy wants his little orgasm and like, you're my little sex puppet to like, give me that, you know what I mean? So not that I'm saying that was necessarily the experience I had, but just in general, like, how do men view women in a sexual way?
Mm-hmm.
And are they like, if they could just realize the power in giving the woman pleasure and asking what she wants and making sure that she's enjoying herself and asking for feedback and being open to suggestions and being open to the woman being like softer or harder, whatever it is. And, that's something that I feel like we need to teach the men today. And only the women can do that. Like, they're not going to figure it out on them by themselves. Like, we each need to advocate for our pleasure in the bedroom with each sexual interaction that we have.
That's right.
And be like, this is what I actually want. And then that will teach them. And then it's going to be great. And they're going to be like, wow, that was so fun. And then hopefully they learn in the future, either with you or with other lovers after you, like, yeah, giving the woman attention and being patient and like feeling her energy, that's going to be better for both people because then she's not just going to space out and like be the fuck object. And like people are going to feel good. You're going to feel like you like accomplished something together instead of just like a more passive. Or what I found in long-term relationships is like this kind of like obligatory, like, oh, well, I'm your partner and like you're horny, so I need to like give you this sex because I'm your partner. And like that, there ain't nothing less sexy than that.
Well, yeah. And it's really, so a lot of this just comes down to communication and like who we are within ourselves and fostering our power in a way that empowers us in ourselves, in our lives, and in our relationships. And because we're all responsible for what we're creating in the world. And so, just like for me, it's just constantly like just being aware of like identifying where am I withholding? Where am I not saying what there is to say?
And why not?
Yeah.
Like, what is it that's stopping me? Is it my fear of judgment? Is it my fear that they're going to get mad at me and like not have sex with me anymore? Is it like, what is it? Like, why do we not speak up? Especially like in a massage situation where it's like, you're literally paying someone to fix you. Like you're paying someone to touch you in the way that you want to be touched. It's not like a mutual exchange. It's like a financial exchange of like, you do this thing for me that I want. And like, we still, even in that situation are like worried about, what the person's going to think.
Well, yeah. And I think, and I know for me is that I became hypersensitive as a young person in the world that like everything I do impacts people around me. And I'm not doing it right. Like there's something about me that is creating tension, chaos, discontent in other people. So like I'm going to, and I realized this I started to realize this in my late teens and my 20s. And it still comes up for me today as a grown ass woman that, there's this dance around wanting to be loved and accepted and a part of, and so there's this people-pleasing thing that happens, right? And now I'm so much more aware of it, and I'm so much more bold and powerful in who I am and my communication. And I can easily slip into the 10-year-old who doesn't feel like she's quite fitting the bill or measuring up to other people's expectations, right? So like for me, it's just like sometimes a moment by moment awareness of like, okay, like, I have to be really conscious of like, what is there to say that I'm not saying? And then be courageous and say that. And so many times that can open something up that I could have never expected otherwise, so, and it builds intimacy. So like when there's something there to say, like I'm just thinking right now, like there's something to say with someone that I have an intimate relationship with in my world right now, and I'm not saying it. And so I'm just declaring right now that I will be powerful and choose to say what is not being said, and knowing that that will actually foster a deeper connection and more intimacy between us.
Yeah, because that also lets the other person know, hey, if there's anything that I'm doing that, either rubs you the wrong way or you would like it to be a different way, like whatever it is, it gives the other person the knowing that they too have the agency to ask for what it is that they want. And I don't think that men, if we're talking about, intimate relationships with men, they don't really have a problem asking for what they want. They just kind of assume that we're going to do whatever they want. But I think that to have that kind of intimacy with someone where you're actually asking them, what is it that you want, instead of just kind of being like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna expect that the man's gonna tell me, because maybe there are things that men don't feel comfortable saying because they feel like they're supposed to know, they're supposed to just, be amazing at sex without having any. Not a lot of talking. You just get to fucking and like it's going to be great for both of you. It's just like that is just not real.
Totally. Yeah. And this is where men are at the effect of toxic masculinity, and where it's like, well, you should know how to do this. You should know how to woo a woman. You should know how to pleasure a woman. You should, and it's like, who said?
Yeah, who's right? Because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And so it's like we have these expectations of people, but it's like if you just take 1 second and look beyond that and be like, and where would they have learned that? Why would you assume that just because, I mean, first of all, every man thinks he's amazing at eating pussy. Have you had that experience where people say that to you?
I have had that experience, and then I've had the experience and I'm like, you are not amazing at eating pussy. Like,
right, exactly. That's like how it goes. Like all men are great. Most of them are not. But then it's like, but we don't also speak up and say like, this is what would be great, because I feel like women are so grateful that a man will even eat your pussy at all. That it's like, we don't even want to fuck it up by being like, actually, can you do it differently? Because we're afraid that they'll like get offended and like not do it anymore. And so we keep our mouths shut and just like get what we can get. But I'm just like done with that. I'm just like, no, thank you. Like, if it's not good, don't waste my time.
Well, yeah. Well, totally. And so I'm going to say that I wouldn't say all men think they're great at eating pussy. I believe that a lot of men are unsure whether or not they're actually providing the pleasure that they desire to provide, or that they think they're supposed to already know how to provide. And they just have no idea, no access to like, even like, how do I even bring this up? Or like, I would venture to say that there's a lot of insecurity that's not being spoken to in men based on this. I should already know how to do this, and I should be really good at it.
Yeah, I should know how to do it. I should be good at it. And she shouldn't have to
tell me what to do. Yeah. And that's not the case. It's like, we're all so different, and our bodies are so different, and our desires and our pleasure is so different. What works for one person does not necessarily work for another person. And I feel for men. I mean, like, I would be so intimidated, I think, like
I'm just like, why would you think you would know what to do with this thing? Like, inside, it's a mystery.
It's a mystery. I know it's like, and that's like my experience of pussy power, just to bring this full circle, since, we've got a couple
Mhm.
of minutes left here. And I do want to chat just a minute, give you some space to share about your journey that you've been on this last year. But, that whole pussy power thing. And it's like, as I'm opening up and getting with my own power more and more, as I experience the pussy, the vagina, the energy of my sexuality, and then witnessing other women's energy around their sexuality and their pussy and their power and their vagina, it's like, wow. It is like, there is so much there. There is like, centuries and eons and galaxies and like, like uncharted territory. And, it's so mystical and mysterious, and like, and there's like levels and layers, and it's just like, wow. It's just a big wow. Right. So that's something that inspired me when I met you, about your journey and seeing how you show up in the world and what you're creating and you're putting out there. I know for me, it's giving me access, and I'm sure many other people, to like just tapping more deeply into that. What is my pussy power? And how to honor that energy in all of us.
Yeah, exactly. What does it look like for you? What feels good to you? Like, how have you been affected by the conditioning of society towards heteronormative, monogamous domestic partnership? And is that what you really want? Or, there's just so many facets in which the oppression of our bodies and the lack of knowledge and autonomy and vocabulary and confidence to speak about them, even like amongst other women, it's really
totally.
such a
Absolutely.
taboo subject, which is why I do these parties, with themes like orgasm, on my period, boobs, because I'm just like, we need to talk about this. Like, we all need to talk about this, because I just go with these themes for my parties and the zines that are just like fundamental, like not abstract, like niche. It's not like I'm doing some like, I don't even know. I don't want to call BDSM niche. It's just like, I'm just trying to cover like the broad strokes of topics that kind of are deemed as taboo or inappropriate to speak about. Because it's like, what's inappropriate? Like, how can it be inappropriate to speak about something that a shared experience that nearly everyone deals with, or that like everyone from a certain biological level, is dealing with? So yeah, it's very multifaceted. It's always changing. Society's always changing, and our relationship to each other and to ourselves within that. And then you have, the ability to get information, and it makes me really happy to know that me just sharing that information, because it's like, I want to know it. That's why I do these events, because I'm like, shit, I need to know about all this stuff. Like, and in order for me to spend all the time researching it, I'm like, well, if I make it into a party, that will help me learn more, and it will also help people in my community learn too. Because if I don't know, certainly there's other people that are interested and don't know. And that's true of any topic, it's just like creating community around whatever it is that you feel passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. One, you've got a post on your Instagram about your Pussy Power House event in Austin, Texas, and the self-love ritual, a group sharing circle where we will be talking about female masturbation. This open discussion will be a non-judgmental, no pressure to share situation for people who were raised with female conditioning in their childhood and who have a pussy, regardless of their current gender identity. And it's like, I didn't speak about masturbation until probably like I didn't start even being able to like say that word until my late 20s, early 30s. And I've been masturbating since like before I was 10. So there was so much there for me. And what I love about this is like, it brings you into a space where it's like, wow, so much compassion that, we do have this magical, mystical, powerful, like experience between our legs that so many of us are just discovering, or some people know nothing about, And
some people don't know the difference between vulva and vagina.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why I was like, okay, basics. basic. It's like adult sex education, but it's like, okay, what would I want sex education to be? I would want there to be talks about consent. I would want there to be talks about boundaries and about pleasure and verbalizing that. And so, yeah, the self-love ritual class, I started doing that at Spirit Weavers at this women's gathering because I had the opportunity to teach, and I was like, shit, what would I teach about? Because there's so many different topics that I explore in my work, but I was like, well, within this container, like a camping trip of only women, like everyone's just like ready to talk about it all. Like people are so down, they're so comfortable. And I was like, let's just talk about the thing that we like literally never, ever. It's like the most unspoken word in the English language. And yet it's something that is like such a part of every individual's life. Even if you don't do it, you still have a relationship to the fact that you don't do it, and why don't you do it, you know? So yeah, that class was born in the woods, and now this fall I took it and did it in a city. I did it in Berkeley, and then I did it again in Austin, and it was really so fun. And I'm really grateful to be able to facilitate these more intimate, you know, like 10 to 20 person sharing circles, because things come up. It's like therapy for like your soul in a different level, because it's personal. Like you're being seen, you're like remembering all these memories that you've maybe like suppressed or like just haven't had a reason to talk about. And so it's very fun and very giddy, and everyone's like really eager to participate, even though there's always the people that are like, I want to share everything, and those people that like barely say one or two things the entire class. Everyone is still like participating and a part of it, and is there absorbing the energy and the openness of it. And so that's my favorite thing about that class.
I love it. Well, give thanks for the work that you're doing and what you're creating in the world. Give us this, I want to make sure folks know how to find you online, but before we do that, give us just like a peek into what you've been creating this year.
So, okay, the Pussy Powerhouse parties, like I said, they started out being about like women's health and sexual empowerment. That was kind of like my topic at the onset, because I was working with my mentor, whose name is Carol Downer. She was like a huge activist in the second wave, the women's health movement. And so really learning a lot from her informed my work a lot. And then as I did a bunch of different themes, I was like, okay, I want to like also branch out into environmentalism, because I feel like our relationship to the earth is very much related to our relationship to each other and to our individual bodies. It's like we don't take care of our personal body temples. We're not taking care of the world at large by any means. One of the themes that I did, actually the first theme of this year, is called Zero Waste. And that was inspired by a friend of mine who lives in LA. Her name is Rochelle Brown, and she's been involved in the party since the beginning. She's one of my first friends I met in LA, and she's an amazing performer and zero waste activist and does classes on it. And she really exposed me to that subject and the possibility of living a life without creating trash. And I had read the article many years ago about, I think her name's Laura Singer, the girl in New York who has a store called the Package Free Shop. And she has a blog called Trash is for Tossers, where she talks about how she, like, you know, all of her trash fits in a mason jar for the past few years. And I remember reading that and being like, oh, wow, that's cool. And then it never even crossed my mind that I could also do that. And so in meeting my friend Rochelle and hearing her talk about it and seeing the way that she operated in the world, I was like, oh, this is accessible. I mean, yes, it takes discipline, but you really can achieve it. And so I decided to do a party called Zero Waste. And in the research for that party, I saw this movie called The Clean Bin Project. And I think you can watch it on Netflix or YouTube. And it's about a couple that went a year without buying things or creating trash. And it was a challenge. And they wanted to see at the end of the year, they each had one little mini garbage can under the sink, like a little tiny, like bathroom size, like super small. And they were like, this is our for the year. We'll see whoever at the end of the year has the least amount. And they each had one with their name on it. And so I wasn't doing it as a challenge. So I saw this movie this year called The Clean Bin Project, and it was about a couple that was each trying to make the least amount of trash possible and also not buy anything. So I decided to do that project for myself. And essentially when I was making the zine, I was like Rochelle had given me all these resources to check out, and other people had like given me things, movies and books and podcasts and everything. So I was like on this binge one night, like exactly a year ago, because it was at the beginning of December. I was getting ready to make the zine for the party in January, and I watched all these movies at once. And I was like, wow, I have to do this. Like, I have to know, what is it like to live without creating trash? And also, I've just been trying to reduce my stuff, like the amount of objects I have. Like, I have so many different projects and activities that I do, and I feel like I've accumulated way too much. And so I was like, the two-parter, there's something about the two-parter where you're not creating trash and you're not buying things, like new things aren't really coming in to your world very much. I mean, certainly like I've traded for things, you'll have given me things, or you find things on the side of the road, whatever, like new objects still find their way into your life. But transitioning, instead of like focusing on like everything must be purchased with money, and being like, okay, well, how can I, even I trade my massage therapist for costume design. So it's like, I keep track of the hours of massage, and the hours I do costumes. And then we have an exchange that doesn't have money, but we're both offering our services to each other in a way that's like fair and feels good for both of us. Yeah. So this year, just, a couple months after I started doing it, realized that I needed to break up with my partner because our lives were just moving in different directions, and it just didn't make sense for us to be in this relationship given what we both wanted to do with our lives. And so I ended up ending that relationship, moving out of the house, getting a storage unit, buying a van, traveling around the country for 5 months, and then deciding to spend my winter in New Orleans, which is where I was living before we were together. And it was a place I had thought about every day and missed very much. And I was like, you know what? It's very important to me to be in New Orleans, and I need to like figure out a way to arrange my life so that I can spend more time there, because it's something that I really value and cherish. And also, I mean, it's sinking into the ground each day because of the, Louisiana coast is just disappearing the size of a football field. It's either the size of a football field an hour or a day. I'm not sure, but it's rapidly disappearing. And so I just felt an urgency to be back here. And also there is such a culture here of not focusing on like the most expensive thing, but really focusing on the experience and the joy of being alive, and just the trees and going for walks and dancing and costuming and all the things I really care about. And so what I learned this year, like if I had to sum it up, would be, when you don't buy things or create trash, you get very clear on what matters to you and what is extraneous and what is actually like an essential in your life. And you get really resourceful with how to make things happen outside of your normal. It just completely disrupts your flow. There's no autopilot.
Yeah. Well, it's a shakeup, and that's what I think we all need to be doing some more of in life, is just shaking things up and getting outside of our comfort zone and actually discovering what else is possible, So I want to make sure people can find you online. Where can people like connect in, follow the journey? You've got other projects like e-zines and all the stuff that you're going to be creating as a part of this year of zero waste. So I just want to make sure our listeners can connect in and follow your journey.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Corinne Loperfido, CorinneLoperfido, and that's my website as well. So CorinneLoperfido.com, Corinne Loperfido on Instagram, and also pussypowerhouse.org. And then if you want to follow on Instagram, it's Pussy Powerhouse, but pussy is spelled with a V, so PVSSY, because Instagram does not let you say pussy in your handle.
Got it. Okay, cool. So we've got Corinne Loperfido at .com, CorinneLoperfido.com, and then pussypowerhouse.org. But the U is a V in...
Oh, this is for Instagram. The website is pussypowerhouse.org. But on Instagram, you're not allowed to use the word pussy. You have to like spell it funny.
Got it. Okay.
You don't allow any handle, which I think is so absurd, because you can say dick, you can say penis, like all these things, that you can't say pussy. So, it just speaks to the work that needs to be done, because that is some foolishness.
Well,
so,
absolutely.
If you look up either one of those things, it'll come back they link to each other. So
great. Okay. So I'm just going to take that again. So we've got Corinne. It's so funny. I want to keep reading it.
It's a
Corinne.
Weird name. Corinne Loperfido.
Yeah. So we've got CorinneLoperfido.com, pussypowerhouse.org, and then on Instagram, Corinne Loperfido or Pussy Powerhouse, and the U in pussy is actually a V because they don't allow you to have pussy in the name of an Instagram handle, which is completely insane. So yes, lots more work to do in this area. You are a powerhouse. I'm so grateful to have you on the conversation today. This has been a juicy one, and we touched on a lot of different important areas here. So Corinne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, absolutely. My pleasure. I hope people got something out of it and are ready to speak up for themselves in the bedroom and beyond.
Yes, me too. And that's what this is all about. So Ignite Intimacy Community, you heard it here. Check out Corinne on Instagram or via her websites. We'll have all the links in the show notes. We love you. Thank you so much for joining us for another powerful episode of Ignite Intimacy. Give us a shout. If you want to connect with Corinne and you haven't checked out her stuff online, just holler at us, hello@igniteintimacy.com. And we love y'all. Stay blessed, be powerful, communicate, and we will see you on the next one. Ciao for now. Booyaka. That is how we're doing it. We are shifting, switching it up, flipping the script on life. And wow, Corinne is just a magical, wonderful, amazing being in this world right now. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I know I'm meditating more on zero waste and how I can be a part of a movement that creates less waste and more love and connection. What about you? Stay tuned. Next up is a gorgeous poem from Noelle. And we love y'all. Thank you so much, Ignite Intimacy community, for tuning up in with us again and again. We will see you on the next one. Stay blessed and ciao for now. Mwah.
Ally. Finally, he wrapped his full lips around my erect nipples and took me in as I would have he. Only seconds before, he had taunted me with his hard wisdom, but licked me only with his steady breath. And I was there begging in tremor whispers for him to risk me, unlatched. Yet he, with his patient proximity, was so much more than daring. He was dangerous. And finally, when he closed the distance, my world selected that moment, and I was ready. I had already begun to foam up to the rims of what was next. I was already diving, detaching safeties, especially accumulated goodwill. But finally, I was with the one who knew to guide my own hand, to connect me to my own pleasure. Finally, the one willing to not take credit for that.
Thanks for tuning in to another conversation on the Ignite Intimacy podcast hotline. We love that you choose to spend your time with us. Check us out at igniteintimacy.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a review and a rating. It helps more people know about us. We love to hear from you. You can email us with questions, comments, or suggestions to hello@igniteintimacy.com. And tell your friends. Music was arranged by Jason Pfaff and Mike Corey, and this podcast is produced by yours truly, Laura Aisha. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, let your light shine bright and ignite your intimacy.